She thought she knew every part of her husband's life, until two innocent voices called him Daddy. May your home always be a place of peace, where love is strong, joy is lasting, and hearts remain gentle. May you find strength in hard times, patience in trials, and harmony in marriage, so your children grow in the safety of love. Family is our greatest treasure. Treat each other with kindness. Guide your children with care. And hold your loved ones close, because no fortune can replace the warmth of unity at home. Every story I share here is my way of giving back to you. Your support is what keeps this family alive. If you feel this love in your heart, write present. If you stand with me on this journey, write I'm with WFH
The morning
Stories.
sunlight filtered through white lace curtains in a quiet suburban home, casting soft patterns across the kitchen tiles. Anika moved gracefully between the stove and the counter, her emerald green nails tapping against a ceramic mug as she poured herself coffee. The aroma filled the air, mingling with the faint sound of pop music from the small speaker she kept on the counter. Today wasn't just any morning. It was her anniversary. She adjusted the gold hoop earrings she had slipped on for work, not because anyone at the office cared, but because she wanted to feel a spark of the woman she used to be, the woman Mario once said was unforgettable. The pancakes sizzled on the pan. She flipped one neatly, then called upstairs. "Lily, breakfast, sweetheart." Her 15-year-old daughter thudded down the steps in jeans and a hoodie, her wavy ponytail bouncing as she slid into a chair. Lily grabbed her phone before fork or napkin. Typical. "Pancakes again?" she asked with a grin. "Special day," Anika said, sliding the plate in front of her. "Your dad and I, her voice softened. Well, it's our anniversary. I thought we'd start sweet." Lily's hazel green eyes lifted for a beat, then darted back down to her phone. "Cool. Is he even home tonight, though?" The question landed like a dart. Anika masked the sting with a sip of coffee. "He said he'll try. He promised." But even as she said it, she felt the hollowness of the word, promised. Mario always promised. Late meetings, last-minute flights, sudden client dinners. She had rehearsed excuses for Lily so often they had become part of the wallpaper of their lives. Still, hope clung stubbornly. She wanted tonight to be different. Tonight, she planned to surprise him. Meanwhile, across the city, Mario was already dressed in his tailored charcoal gray suit. His tie knotted to perfection. He stood before the mirrored wall of his sleek downtown office, adjusting his cufflinks like a man about to step into battle. His reflection showed a confident husband, successful provider, and respected man, but behind his blue eyes lay the shadow of nerves. His phone buzzed. Anika's name flashed on the screen. "Hey babe," he answered, infusing his tone with warmth. Anika's voice carried through, light with anticipation. "Just wanted to say happy anniversary. I have a surprise for you later." His hand tightened around the phone. "That's sweet, but tonight's crazy. Late meetings, clients from out of town. Don't wait up, okay?" The lie rolled off his tongue smoothly, honed by years of practice. He turned toward the large window where the city stretched out like an endless grid of opportunities and secrets. On the other side of town, his other family was waiting. Back in the suburbs, Anika stood by the counter, her phone still in her hand after the call ended. She wanted to believe him. She always wanted to believe him, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at her. To push it away, she focused on her plan. After work, she would swing by the party store and pick up helium balloons, silver ones, shaped like hearts. She would stop at the boutique bakery where Mario had proposed to her all those years ago and buy the same chocolate cake they had shared then. She would dress in her green dress, the one Mario used to say made her look like royalty, and she would walk into his world tonight, surprising him, reminding him that their marriage still had fire. Her daughter's voice snapped her out of the daydream. "You're smiling, Mom, like really smiling." Anika laughed softly. "Maybe because I want tonight to be special." But even as she packed her daughter's lunch and set her work bag by the door, the doubt returned as subtle as smoke. She shook it off. Tonight was about love. Tonight was about reclaiming what they had lost. Mario, however, carried a completely different kind of anticipation. As the day pressed forward, his carefully compartmentalized worlds began to pull at each other. The office, with its spreadsheets and deadlines, was just the cover. The real reason for his late-night meeting was waiting across town: Jessica, the woman from his past, and the two children who bore his eyes. He had told himself for years he could manage both lives. He had convinced himself he was protecting Anika by sparing her the truth and protecting his children with Jessica by keeping them close. But anniversaries had a way of exposing cracks, and as he prepared to leave the office later that evening, a quiet dread stirred beneath the armor of his suit. By late afternoon, Anika pulled into the party store parking lot, humming along to the radio. She walked out minutes later with silver balloons bobbing in the wind, the strings tight in her grip. The bakery box rested on the passenger seat, tied with a red ribbon. She glanced in the rearview mirror at herself, the curls she had styled into a soft twist out that morning, the faint shimmer of gloss on her lips, and the hope shining stubbornly in her eyes. "Tonight," she whispered to herself. "Tonight, he'll remember." Her clutch rested beside her on the seat, a gift tucked neatly inside, a silver watch Mario had admired months ago. She had saved quietly, imagining his smile when he unwrapped it. The stage was set. She was ready. What Anika couldn't know was that her gift, her balloons, her cake, and her carefully chosen dress would become symbols of heartbreak, not celebration. Because across town, Mario was already rehearsing another kind of lie that would shatter the life she thought was unshakable.
The silver balloons bumped gently against the ceiling of Anika's car as she steered through the glow of downtown lights. Her heart raced in rhythm with the hum of the engine, excitement tinged with nerves. It had been years since she had planned something like this, a gesture of love, a surprise that wasn't just flowers or dinner at home. Tonight, she wanted Mario to remember who they were before late nights, before excuses, before distance. The bakery box rested on the passenger seat, the red ribbon shifting with every turn. Her sleek black clutch held the watch she had chosen for him, wrapped carefully in silver paper. She imagined the look on his face when he saw her standing there, balloons in hand, dress hugging her figure, reminding him that their love was still alive. As she pulled up to the restaurant, a polished Italian place that used to frequent before Lily was born, her chest swelled with anticipation. She whispered to herself, "Happy anniversary, Mario," as if practicing the moment she would see his eyes light up. She parked, smoothed down the emerald fabric of her dress, and grabbed the balloons and cake box. The door chimed softly as she entered the restaurant, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The warm aroma of garlic and basil wrapped around her, instantly familiar. Her gaze swept the room and froze. At a table near the window, Mario sat laughing. His blue eyes sparkled the way they used to, but not at her. Across from him sat a woman, striking in her cream blouse and long black hair. Beside the woman, two children leaned close, one sipping from a straw, the other giggling with her hands clapping against the table. Then, like a knife to her chest, she heard it. "Daddy, can we get dessert?" The little boy's voice was clear, innocent, and he was looking at Mario. The balloons slipped from Anika's hand, floating upward until they tangled against the ceiling fan. The bakery box slid from her arm and crashed to the floor, the cake spilling against the polished tile, red ribbon trailing like blood across the ground. The sound made the table turn. Mario's smile vanished. His face drained of color as his eyes locked on hers. The woman, Kamila, blinked in confusion, her hazel eyes darting between Mario and Anika. The little girl tilted her head, her pigtails bouncing, and asked the question that ripped the room in two. Daddy? Who's she? The restaurant went silent. Forks suspended midair, conversations halting. A few diners turned to look, sensing the drama unfolding like a scene from a film. Anika's throat tightened. The gift bag slipped from her clutch, tumbling to the floor, spilling the neatly wrapped watch. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. Mario stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. "Anika," he started, his voice cracking, but she had already turned. Her heels clicked faster now, almost a sprint across the restaurant floor. The hostess tried to step aside, mumbling something, but Anika didn't hear. She pushed through the heavy glass doors into the cool night air, her chest heaving, her vision blurred. The street blurred with neon and headlights. The night sounds, laughter, car horns, music drifting from bars, felt distant, muffled under the roar of her pulse. Behind her, she heard him. "Anika, wait!" She broke into a run, the emerald dress clinging to her legs. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to escape the image of Mario with that woman, with those children, living a life she had never been allowed to see. The click of his leather shoes grew closer. Then his hand reached out, catching her arm. "Please, just let me explain." His voice trembled, desperate. She wrenched free, her eyes blazing with fury and betrayal. "Explain? Explain what? That you're their father? That you've been lying to me? To Limmy every night you walked out that door?" He stammered, words tumbling without form. It's not what you think." Her laugh was sharp, hollow. "Not what I think? I saw them call you Daddy. I saw you sitting there with your perfect little family like I don't even exist." Mario's jaw tightened, his practiced composure cracking. "Anika, please, I never wanted you to find out this way." This way? There was supposed to be a right way to discover my husband has a secret family? People on the sidewalk turned their heads, some slowing down, sensing the drama unfolding like a scene from a film. Anika's throat tightened. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but her voice was steel. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to ask me to understand. You don't get anything." She turned sharply, her clutch still clutched in her hand, and walked away into the night. Mario stood frozen on the curb, the weight of his double life crushing him under the gaze of strangers. Anika kept walking, her heels striking the pavement like war drums. Her mind replayed the image, the boy's eager face, the girl's innocent question, the way Mario looked so at ease with them. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a fling. It was a life he had built in the shadows, while she sat at home waiting, believing his promises, raising her daughter alone on nights he claimed were for work. The truth sank into her bones with every step. She wasn't his only love. She wasn't his only family. And tonight, on the very night she had tried to reignite their marriage, the lie unraveled in front of her eyes. Her hands trembled as she hailed a cab. The driver opened the door, but before she climbed in, she stole one last look back. Mario was still standing under the restaurant's glow, his figure sharp against the glass. The balloons she had brought were still tangled in the ceiling fan inside, bobbing aimlessly, mocking her. She slid into the cab and whispered her address, her voice breaking on the words. As the car pulled away, tears streamed down her face, silent and unstoppable. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window, clutching her clutch like a lifeline. And in that moment, something inside her cracked wide open. Her marriage wasn't a story of late nights and busy schedules. It was a story of betrayal. A story she could no longer
The cab
deny.
ride home felt endless, every stoplight dragging out her torment.
Anika kept her gaze fixed on the blurred city lights, trying not to see Mario's face burned into her memory. Not the face of the man she married, but the face of a father at another table, another life, with children who weren't hers. Her hands were clenched around her clutch so tightly her knuckles ached. The driver said nothing. He didn't need to. Her tears told the story of a woman whose world had just come apart at the seams. By the time the cab pulled into the driveway of her suburban home, the neighborhood was quiet, the windows dark. Lily was upstairs, probably scrolling through her phone, unaware that the foundation of her family had just cracked wide open. Anika slipped inside, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She set her clutch on the table, staring at the framed wedding photo that had greeted her every day for 15 years. She almost ripped it from the wall, but instead turned away, pressing both hands against her chest as though holding herself together. Minutes later, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway made her stomach twist. She didn't want him here. She didn't want to see his face. Yet her body froze as the door opened, and Mario stepped in. "Anika." His voice was ragged, his suit jacket unbuttoned, his tie loosened as though he had been running after her for hours. "Don't," she snapped, spinning around. Her eyes were red, swollen, but blazing with fury. Don't you dare say my name like everything is fine." Mario raised his hands as though surrendering. "Please, just give me a chance to—" "A chance?" Her voice broke into a bitter laugh. "What chance do you deserve? You lied to me, Mario. You lied every night you walked out that door. Do you know what it felt like seeing you with them? With her? With those kids?" His mouth opened, but the words seemed stuck. He stepped forward, desperation etched across his face. "It's complicated." Anika shook her head violently, tears spilling again. "No, it's simple. You're a liar, a coward, and I was the fool who believed you." Her hands trembled as she pointed toward the door. "Get out." Mario didn't move. His voice dropped to a whisper, thick with panic. "Anika, please. I didn't want you to find out this way." Her chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. There wasn't supposed to be a way, because if you truly loved me, if you truly loved Lily, there wouldn't have been another family. For a moment, silence filled the space between them, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked, Lily moving around in her room. Anika's stomach churned at the thought of her daughter discovering the truth. Mario ran a hand through his hair, his polished composure crumbling. "You don't understand. I tried to end it. I tried, but—" She cut him off, her voice sharp as glass. "But what? You couldn't? You didn't want to? Or you just love playing both sides, pretending to be a family man here while running to her whenever you felt like it?" Mario's eyes brimmed with guilt. "It wasn't like that." Anika stepped closer, her voice trembling with both rage and pain. "Don't insult me. I saw the way you looked at them. You were at home, at peace, like that was where you belonged." Her words struck him like blows. His jaw clenched, his gaze dropping to the floor. Anika turned away, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter until her knuckles went white. She could still hear the little girl's voice in her head. "Daddy, who's she?" It replayed again and again like a cruel echo. Part of her wanted to believe there was some explanation. Maybe those kids weren't his. Maybe she had misheard. Maybe Kamila was just a colleague. But the truth was written all over Mario's face when he saw her at the restaurant. The shock, the guilt, the terror. Denial was easier, but it couldn't erase the image. She pressed a hand over her mouth, fighting a sob. "Was I nothing to you?" Mario's head snapped up, his eyes pleading. "No, don't say that. You're my wife. You're the reason I built this life. I love you, Anika." The word love felt like poison. She spat back. "You don't love me. You don't lie to the person you love. You don't build an entire family behind their back." Her voice cracked on the last word, raw with anguish. Upstairs, the faint sound of music drifted through Lily's closed door. She prayed her daughter couldn't hear, prayed she could protect her from the storm at least for one more night. Mario stepped closer again, his arm reaching out, but she recoiled. "Don't touch me," she whispered, her voice shaking. He froze, his arm dropping to his side. Please, just give me time to explain. I owe you that. Anika wiped her tears, lifting her chin. You owe me 15 years of truth. You owe me every night you weren't here. You owe your daughter the father she thought she had, and you can't pay any of it back. Mario's face crumpled, but she didn't give him the chance to speak. She grabbed the wedding photo from the wall and shoved it into his chest. The glass frame thudded against him, startling him into silence. Look at us, she hissed. Was it all a lie? Was I ever really your family? Mario stared at the photo, his lips trembling, but no answer came. Anika turned away, collapsing into a chair, her body shaking from the weight of it all. For years she had waited, doubted, hoped. Tonight the truth stood before her, and it was unbearable. Mario hovered near the doorway, torn between staying or fleeing, but no excuse could undo what she had seen. For the first time, Anika realized that the man she thought she knew, the man she trusted with her life and her child's life, was a stranger, and no matter how much he begged, she wasn't ready to let him back in. Not tonight. Maybe
The
not
house
ever.
felt suffocating. The silence that followed their confrontation in the kitchen was heavy, broken only by the faint creaks of the old home and the muffled bass of Lily's music upstairs. Anika wanted nothing more than for Mario to leave, to take his lies and walk out the door. But he didn't move. Mario stood near the entryway, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, his jaw tight. He looked like a man cornered, stripped of the armor of charm and control that he wore so easily in his downtown life. Anika, he said finally, his voice hoarse, I can't leave. Not without telling you everything. You deserve the truth. Her chest rose sharply. The truth? She hissed. Now you want to tell me the truth after 15 years of lies? He flinched, but didn't back away. Please, if I walk out that door without saying it, you'll never hear me out. And I can't. I can't let that happen. Anika's fists curled at her sides. Part of her wanted to scream, to throw him out and bolt the door. But the sound of Lily's footsteps upstairs held her back. Her daughter couldn't know. Not like this. Not yet. Fine, she whispered through clenched teeth. You can talk, but keep your voice down. She's upstairs. Mario exhaled, a mix of relief and dread. He stepped further into the living room, the framed photo still clutched in his hand from earlier. He set it on the coffee table, carefully, as though handling something fragile. Anika stayed standing, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her body a fortress against his words. He sank onto the couch, his shoulders slumped. For the first time in years, he looked smaller to her. Not the confident, polished man who commanded boardrooms, but a flawed human weighed down by secrets. I started before we even got married, he began, his voice low. Anika's stomach dropped. Her nails dug into her arms. Mario rubbed his forehead. Her name is Kamila. You saw her tonight. Anika's eyes flashed with fire. Don't say her name in this house. He nodded quickly, swallowing hard. We were together before you and I. I thought it was over, I really did. But years later, after Lily was born, I made a mistake. I saw her again, and I couldn't walk away. It was supposed to be one night. Just one night. Anika shook her head, biting back the sob clawing at her throat. One night doesn't give you children. One night doesn't give you a second family. His eyes flickered with guilt. I know. It didn't stop there. She had Ethan first, then Maya, and by then, I couldn't leave them. I couldn't walk away from those kids. They're innocent. They didn't ask for this. Anika staggered back a step, pressing a hand against the wall for balance. The words cut deeper than any blade. He hadn't just betrayed her. He had built an entire world without her, a world she was never meant to see. Her voice shook, low and dangerous. So what was I, your plan B? A safe life? The stable wife and the daughter you came home to when you felt like playing father? Mario stood, his hands outstretched, desperate. No, you weren't plan B. You are my family. I love you. I love Lily. But I couldn't abandon them either. I tried to balance it. I thought I could protect everyone. Anika laughed bitterly, her tears spilling over. Protect? You call this protecting me? Lying to my face for 15 years? Sneaking off to them while I raised our daughter alone on your so-called business trips? That's not protection, Mario. That's cruelty. He dropped his gaze, shame flooding his features. The weight of her words hung in the air. Anika turned toward the stairs, listening. Lily's music was still faintly audible. Thank God, she couldn't bear the thought of her daughter walking in on this. Mario's voice cracked. Anika, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I've ruined everything. But please don't shut me out completely. I'm begging you. Her chest heaved. Every fiber of her being screamed to throw him out, to slam the door and never let him back in. But another part, the part that had built a life with him, that had shared birthdays and anniversaries, that had raised a daughter with him, hesitated. She wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. You've destroyed me, Mario. Do you understand that? You've destroyed the life I thought I had. His eyes glistened, his voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just weak. I couldn't choose. And in trying to have both, I've lost everything. Anika stared at him, her breath shallow. She could see the man she had once loved standing there, the man who made her laugh, who danced with her in the kitchen, who held her when Lily was born. But now, he was also the man who shattered her trust, the man who carried another woman's children on his shoulders while she sat alone, waiting. She turned away, whispering through clenched teeth, You can sleep on the couch. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what comes next. But tonight, stay away from me. Mario nodded, defeated. He lowered himself back onto the couch, his head in his hands. Anika climbed the stairs slowly, her legs heavy, her heart heavier. She paused at Lily's door, listening to the faint music, the muffled sound of her daughter's laughter at something on her phone. For a fleeting moment, Anika considered walking in, pulling her close, telling her everything. But she couldn't. Not yet. Not until she found the strength. She slipped into her bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. Alone in the dark, she pressed her forehead against the cool wall, her body trembling with silent sobs. Downstairs, Mario sat in the dim light of the living room, surrounded by the ghosts of two lives he could no longer keep apart.
Enjoying the story so far? There's plenty more where this came from. Hit subscribe to WFH Stories so you never miss the next twist.
The next morning, the house carried a tense quiet. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, dust motes floating in the air like tiny reminders that life moved on, even when a marriage stood still. Anika sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were raw, her chest hollow. She had heard Mario shifting on the couch all night, restless, as though the weight of his secrets made it impossible to lie still. When Lily patted down the stairs on her hoodie, backpack slung over one shoulder, Anika forced a smile. Have a good day at school, sweetheart. Lily glanced between her parents, her mother drained, her father sitting stiff on the couch, but said nothing. She left quickly, earbuds already in place. The moment the door closed, silence returned, thick and suffocating. Mario stood, rubbing his hands over his face. Anika, please, let me explain everything, not just pieces of it. The whole story. You deserve to know. Anika leaned back in her chair, her voice flat. Go ahead, I'm listening. He hesitated, his jaw flexing. Then he sat across from her, his blue eyes heavy with regret. I met Kamila before you. She was my first love. We were young, reckless, inseparable. But it didn't last. We fought all the time, and eventually we broke up. I thought it was over for good. Anika's fingers tightened around her mug. The mention of that woman's name in her kitchen made her stomach twist. Then I met you, Mario continued. You were everything I needed. Steady, kind. You kept me grounded. You made me believe I could build a life worth something. Anika's lips curved into a bitter smile. So you were my safety net, the wife you chose when passion wasn't enough? Mario shook his head, his voice trembling. No, it wasn't like that. I loved you. I still do. But years into our marriage, I saw Kamila again, by accident, and I was weak. We talked, we reconnected. I told myself it was harmless, but one night turned into more. And then she was pregnant. Anika's chest constricted. She pressed her hand to her forehead as though bracing herself from collapsing. Ethan was born, Mario said softly. I thought that would end it. I told her I couldn't keep living two lives. But then Maya came, and I couldn't walk away from them. They're my children, Anika. I couldn't pretend they didn't exist. Anika's eyes burned with tears, her voice breaking. And what about Lily? What about your daughter here? You think she didn't need a father? You think disappearing night after night didn't scar her? Mario's face crumpled. I thought I was protecting her, protecting you. If she didn't know, maybe it wouldn't hurt as much. Anika laughed bitterly, shaking her head. Protect me? Mario, every late night, every lie, every empty seat at the dinner table, it did hurt. And now it's unbearable. She pushed back from the table and stormed into the living room. Her anger needed an outlet. She yanked open the drawer of the sideboard where Mario often kept paperwork. Receipts spilled out, folded slips with restaurants she'd never visited, dates that aligned with his business trips. Her hands shook as she rifled through the drawer. Beneath the stack, she found a small envelope. She pulled it open and gasped. Photographs. Mario smiling with Kamila at a park. Mario pushing Ethan on a swing. Mario holding Maya in his arms, her tiny hand clutching his finger. Each image was a dagger. She threw them on the floor, her voice breaking into a scream. You documented it? You kept photos of your betrayal? Mario rushed forward, his hands out. Anika, please! She cut him off, shoving the pictures at his chest. Was I ever your real family? Or was this house just your cover story? Tears blurred her vision. She staggered back, her voice trembling. Tell me the truth, Mario. Was I ever enough for you? He stared at her, stricken, his lips trembling. Yes, you were enough. You still are. I couldn't let go of her. I couldn't let go of them. And in trying to keep it all, I ruined everything. Anika's knees felt weak. She sank into the armchair, clutching her stomach. Images of the last 15 years flashed in her mind. Their wedding vows, Lily's first steps, late-night laughs over pizza, moments when she thought she had a partner by her side. Now, every memory was poisoned. Her voice came out in a whisper. You gave her your passion. You gave me your stability. You split yourself in two, and I never even had the whole of you. Mario knelt before her, tears brimming in his eyes. I'm sorry, Anika. I swear I never wanted this. I thought I could handle it, but I couldn't. Please, don't give up on us. She looked down at him, her face streaked with tears. For a fleeting moment, she saw the man she once trusted. But the weight of the receipts, the photographs, the years of lies crushed any illusion of hope. Her voice came out in a whisper. You don't get to ask me for anything.
You took our life and made it a lie. And I'll never forgive you for that. Mario bowed his head, silent, broken. Anika stood, stepping past him. She picked up the photos, the receipts, and shoved them into the envelope. I'm keeping this. Proof of who you really are. Proof of what you did. So when Lily asks me why her father isn't around, I'll have the answer. Her words hit him like a final blow. As she walked towards the stairs, clutching the envelope, she whispered to herself, almost too softly to hear, I was never your first choice. But now, I'll be
The
my own.
envelope sat heavy on Anika's nightstand, its contents threatening to spill open like wounds that would never heal. She hadn't touched it since shoving it there the night before, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. The photographs of Mario's double life, the receipts proving his betrayal, proved that everything she thought was whole had been fractured for years. Her body felt leaden, but she forced herself out of bed. Lily's laughter echoed faintly from downstairs. Somehow, her daughters still found joy in a house crumbling beneath them. That laughter was a lifeline. When Anika entered the kitchen, Lily was perched at the counter, a bowl of cereal in front of her, scrolling on her phone. She looked up, her green hazel eyes softening when she saw her mother. "Morning, Mom." Anika tried to smile, but it wavered. She poured herself coffee, needing the warmth in her hands as much as the caffeine. "Morning, baby." For a moment, neither spoke. The kitchen felt like secret ground, a place where Lily's innocence still lingered, untainted by the storm swirling around them. But Lily had her father's intuition. She noticed things. She always had. Finally, Lily tilted her head. "You've been crying." Anika froze, her mug halfway to her lips. She considered lying, brushing it off, but her daughter's steady gaze stripped her of the ability. "Yeah," Anika whispered, her voice breaking. "I have." Lily set her phone down and slid off the stool. She crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around her mother's waist. Anika clung to her, burying her face in her daughter's hair, inhaling the familiar scent of strawberry shampoo. For the first time since the restaurant, she let herself truly sob. Not the muffled cries into a pillow, not the silent tears in the dark, but a raw, unrestrained release of pain. Lily held her tighter. "It's okay, Mom. I've known something was wrong for a long time." Anika pulled back slightly, her face wet with tears. You knew?" Lily's expression was sad but calm. "Not everything, but I knew Dad wasn't here. Not really. He was always gone, always distracted. You don't hide stuff as well as you think when you're trying to protect me." Anika's chest tightened. She had tried so hard to shield Lily, to preserve her innocence, but her daughter was sharper than she gave her credit. "I'm sorry," Anika whispered. "I wanted to protect you from all this." Lily shook her head. "Don't apologize. You've been holding everything together while he—" Her voice faltered, but she steadied herself. "While he chose other things." Anika stroked her daughter's cheek, seeing so much strength in her young face. "You shouldn't have to carry this burden." Lily smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened. "I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. I'd rather know the truth than live in lies." The words cut deep. They were both victims of Mario's deception, but while Anika's wound was betrayal, Lily's was broken trust. They sat together on the couch, the morning sunlight spilling across the room. For a long time, they didn't speak, just sat in silence, drawing comfort from each other's presence. Finally, Lily glanced at her mother's wedding ring. "Why do you still wear it?" Anika followed her gaze. The gold band glinted in the light, but to her it felt like a shackle. She twisted it around her finger slowly. "This used to mean love, commitment, a promise we'd build a life together. But now," she slipped it off, holding it in her palm. Now it feels like a reminder of everything he broke. Lily leaned against her. Then don't wear it. You don't need it to prove who you are. Anika stared at the ring, her heart heavy but resolute. She set it on the coffee table. The weight lifted ever so slightly from her chest. Her daughter's words echoed in her mind. You don't need it to prove who you are. That afternoon, Anika took Lily out for a drive. The air was crisp, leaves scattering across the roads. They ended up at a park where Lily used to play as a child, the swings creaking softly in the wind. They sat together on the swings, the chains cool in their hands. Lily pumped her legs lightly, the motion bringing back memories of Mario pushing her higher, both of them laughing. The memory stung, but it didn't crush her. Lily turned, her eyes earnest. We're going to be okay, right? Anika met her gaze, and for the first time since the betrayal, she felt certainty bloom in her chest. Yes, baby, we're going to be okay because we have each other. They swung quietly, side by side, the weight of betrayal slowly giving way to the strength of their bond. That night, Anika sat at her desk journaling. She wrote about the ring, the photos, the lies, but she also wrote about Lily, her courage, her intuition, her unconditional love. For the first time, Anika saw a path forward, not defined by Mario's choices, but by her own resilience. She closed her journal, wiped her tears, and whispered to herself, I deserve the truth, and I deserve dignity. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman still broken, but no longer powerless. She had her daughter, she had her strength, and she had the choice to reclaim her life.
The grill smoked in the backyard, the smell of sizzling burgers and corn on the cob drifting through the crisp afternoon air. The chatter of friends and neighbors blended with the clinking of soda cans and laughter from children darting across the grass. To anyone watching, the Robinsons' annual neighborhood BBQ looked like the picture of suburban happiness. Anika stood near the picnic table, adjusting the bowls of potato salad and chips, her emerald green dress flittering slightly in the breeze. On the outside, she looked composed, the perfect hostess. Inside, her heart thundered like a war drum. The envelope was tucked into her clutch, heavy as a loaded weapon. Photographs, receipts, text messages, proof. Today, the facade would end. Mario moved through the crowd like a seasoned politician, flashing smiles, shaking hands, refilling drinks. His charcoal suit jacket was gone, sleeves rolled to his elbows, the image of a relaxed, trustworthy neighbor. He laughed too loudly at a joke, his eyes darting nervously at Anika from time to time. He knew she was on edge. He just didn't know how close she was to detonating everything. Mom, can I go hang out with the Martins kids? Lily asked, jogging up with her soda in hand. Anika brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead and smiled softly. Go ahead, sweetheart. Stay where I can see you. As Lily bounded off, Anika's chest tightened. She hated what was about to happen and hated that her daughter would be caught in the fallout. But the truth had to come out. Secrets thrived in silence, and silence had already destroyed too much. She stepped onto the wooden deck, clinking her glass gently with a fork. The chatter dimmed, faces turning toward her. Mario froze mid-conversation, his smile faltering. Friends, neighbors, Anika began, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. Thank you for being here today. I know these gatherings are supposed to be about food, family, and laughter. Her gaze shifted to Mario, her eyes locking with his. But today, I need to speak about my family in a different way. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Mario's face was drained of color. Anika lifted her clutch and pulled out the envelope. Her hands didn't shake. She was beyond fear now. For 15 years, I believed I had a husband who loved me, who loved our daughter, who built this life with us.
But the truth is, he's been living a double life. Gasps echoed through the backyard. Mario stepped forward quickly, his voice strained. Anika, stop, please, not here. Her voice rose, slicing through the air. Why not here? Why not in front of the people who thought you were a good man? Why not in front of the daughter you've lied to her entire life? She opened the envelope and pulled out the photographs. Holding them high, she let the crowd see. Mario at the park, pushing Ethan on the swing. Mario holding Maya in his arms. Mario and Kamila smiling like a family. The neighbors erupted in shocked murmurs. A woman covered her mouth. A man shook his head in disbelief. Mario's face twisted with panic. It's not what it looks like. Anika laughed bitterly, her voice cracking with pain. Not what it looks like? Then explain these receipts. Dinners, hotels, vacations, all while I was home raising our daughter alone. Explain the children calling you daddy. Explain the years of lies. Lily, who had wandered back toward the deck, froze mid-step. Her soda slipped from her hand, spilling across the grass. Dad? Her voice was small, trembling. The crowd went silent, all eyes on the teenage girl whose world was unraveling. Mario turned, his face pale. Lily. But Anika stepped between them, her voice sharp as glass. Don't you dare try to explain it to her with more lies. Lily's eyes filled with tears, her face twisting in confusion and pain. You have another family? Mario reached for her, but she stumbled back. Stay away from me. Her cry pierced the air, cutting through Mario's desperate pleas. Neighbors looked on, horrified, some turning away as though witnessing something too intimate, too raw. The Robinsons, the family everyone admired, had just collapsed before their eyes. Anika's voice trembled but carried strength. This man has betrayed not just me, but his daughter. He thought he could juggle two lives, but the truth has a way of breaking through. And today, it broke. Mario dropped to his knees on the deck, his polished image shattered. Anika, please, don't destroy us completely. Anika stared down at him, her tears falling freely now. You destroyed us the moment you chose lies over love. I'm just showing the world who you really are. The weight of her words silenced the crowd. Some neighbors pulled their children closer, others shook their heads in disgust. Mario's reputation, his carefully constructed image, lay in ruins. Anika turned away, her shoulders trembling. She gathered Lily into her arms, holding her daughter as she sobbed. For the first time, Anika didn't feel alone in her pain. She and Lily were bound, not just by blood, but by truth. Behind them, Mario sat collapsed on the deck, his hands in his hair, surrounded not by family or friends, but by the wreckage of his own making. The barbecue was over. The Robinsons' perfect image was gone. But in its place, Anika felt the faint stirrings of something stronger than lies. Freedom.
The house was quiet again, but not with peace, with absence. The laughter of the barbecue was gone, replaced by the echo of Lily's sobs as she shut herself in her room. Mario hadn't come home after the confrontation. Maybe he couldn't face them. Maybe he was hiding with his other family. Or maybe he was drowning in shame somewhere. Anika sat alone at her bedroom desk, the divorce papers spread out before her. She had printed them that morning, almost on instinct, as though her body knew the truth before her mind could accept it. The papers stared back at her now, stark and final. Her pen lay across the top page. All it would take was one signature, one stroke of ink, and 15 years would officially be over. But her hand trembled. She thought of the early years, Mario holding her hand as they moved into their first home, painting Lily's nursery together, sneaking kisses in the kitchen while dinner burned. Were all those moments lies too? Or were they real once, before he split himself in two? Her chest tightened. She wanted to hate him completely, to erase him from her memory. But she couldn't. She had loved him. Part of her still did, even if that part was bruised and broken beyond repair. A soft knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Lily peeked inside, her face pale and streaked with tears. "Mom?" Anika quickly wiped her eyes. "Come in, baby." Lily sat on the edge of the bed, her hands twisting in her lap. Are you really going to divorce him?" Anika's throat tightened. "I don't know. I want to. I should. But it feels so final." Lily's eyes brimmed with fresh tears. "He lied to us. He had another family, Mom. That's not a mistake. That's choosing them over us." Anika reached for her daughter's hand, holding it tightly. "You're right. And you deserve a father who doesn't split his love in pieces. You deserve better. And so do I." They sat in silence for a while, the weight of the decision pressing down on both of them. Later that night, as the house settled into uneasy stillness, a knock came at the front door. Anika's heart clenched. She knew who it was before she even opened it. Mario stood there, disheveled, his blue eyes bloodshot. He looked older, worn down, stripped of the polished confidence that once defined him. "Anika," he whispered, his voice raw. "Please, let me in." She hesitated, then stepped aside. He entered slowly, like a man walking into his own funeral. They sat in the living room, the air between them thick with unspoken pain. Mario leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I know you'll never forgive me. I know I've ruined everything. But don't destroy us completely. Don't take Lily away from me. Don't take you away from me." Anika stared at him, her eyes burning. "Us? There hasn't been an us for years. You destroyed us the moment you chose to live a double life. I'm just setting us free." Mario's face twisted with anguish. "I was selfish. I thought I could keep both worlds. I thought I could protect you and Kamila, protect all the kids. But I see now I was only protecting myself." Anika's voice trembled, but it carried strength. "You wanted everything. And in the end, you lost it all." He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "I can't erase what you've done. And I won't stay in a marriage built on lies. You may still be Lily's father, but you're no longer my husband. Not in the way that matters." Her words were a verdict, sealing the fate he had set in motion years ago. Mario's shoulders sagged. He nodded slowly, tears slipping down his face. "If this is what you want, I'll sign whatever papers you put in front of me. Just please don't let her hate me." Anika's jaw clenched. "That's not my choice to make anymore. That's between you and her." He bowed his head, defeated. The man who stood tall in boardrooms now sat broken in the home he had destroyed. When he left, closing the door softly behind him, Anika felt the silence wrap around her again. But this time it was different. Not suffocating, not heavy with lies. It was the silence of a clean break. She walked back upstairs, into her room, and sat at the desk once more. The divorce papers were still there, waiting. She picked up the pen. Her hands shook, but not from fear, from release. With a deep breath, she signed her name. Tears streamed down her face, but she smiled through them. Not because the pain was gone, it wasn't, but because she had chosen herself. For the first time in years, Anika felt powerful. Not as Mario's wife, not as the keeper of his secrets, but as her own woman.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine, so do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.